Let me get started by just clarifying non-bank unit, non-bank subsidiary. So what exactly is the business and what can you not do?
Good morning, and thank you for having us on the show today. Absa is a Pan-African bank with a headquarter in South Africa. We're setting up a wholly foreign-owned entity in China, which is essentially a non-banking subsidiary of Absa Group. And really what it allows us to do is capitalize on the trade and investment flows that we're seeing in both directions, not only from China into Africa, but also from Africa into China. And having the presence in Beijing allows us to capitalize on those flows by building close relationships with Chinese investors, state-owned enterprises, the private sector, the Chinese banks, which we see have an increasing interest on the continent, as well as development financial institutions. So by being here and providing advisory services about Africa, we represent Africa in China. I like to say that we're the face of Africa. And so by being present, having a close presence, allows us to build these relationships, be that face of Africa, and build that connectivity back into the continent.
And how much of a risk appetite is there among Chinese companies now to invest in the continent? What are you seeing, and why do you think now is the time to set up this office in Beijing?
The trade and investment flows are inextricably linked. The economic ties are inextricably linked. We're seeing so much cooperation between government, between private sector. That's illustrated via FOCAC, the various FOCAC summits. It's illustrated via the China-Africa business forums. And we're seeing increasing not only investment, but also trade flows. We're also seeing a cooperation and development around trade flows that go into Africa, as well as looking at how we can export product from Africa into China, the likes of agricultural product, the likes of products that have been that are already at the end of the cycle from an agricultural perspective, and really just linking the two is critical for the development of the cooperation between China, Africa, as well as the development of the African continent. And as you've rightly said, we've seen huge investment flows. China is the biggest bilateral trading partner with Africa. And just to use South Africa as an example, we've seen trade flows in South Africa increase from $1 billion to $56 billion in the past 25 years. So surely just an illustration of how close those ties are and how that cooperation is extending well into the private sector as well. We see a lot of opportunity with the private sector as it also looks to various sectors across Africa. We've touched on mining and minerals that you mentioned earlier. Power, renewable energy is obviously a key focus. Critical minerals, we're seeing a huge growth around critical minerals under the guise of ESG development.
Right.
So really exciting across a number of wide sectors.
It seems that there's really, and I wouldn't say it seems, there really has been a story there, just to rephrase that, Cheryl. So let me rephrase my other question. Instead of why now, why only now then?
Africa is obviously on a development path. Absa itself, we have a strategy around looking at various global territories for international expansion. And that international expansion is really about connecting us into the continent. We're an African bank, and we don't purport to be anything other than having a wide Pan-African presence. So we do have international offices in other territories. And this was now the time where we believe that our clients, our partners were saying to us, we'd like to see you in China. We want to see you committed to China. We want to see you committed such that we can build those partnerships, those ties, and look at trade opportunities across the continent. So the time was right in our broader strategy, and it's really exciting to finally be here.
How does the China market then contribute to your earnings in the future, at least in terms of projections on trade revenues, in terms of revenue growth? What sort of targets are you looking at right now, Cheryl?
You know, we're looking at building relationships such that we can what we're really looking to do is support the growth and the development across Africa. And we believe that the trade and investment targets of private sector and of government are substantially enough that warrant us setting up the office here, having the opportunity, and naturally looking at the commercialization for ourselves as a bank. So we certainly have ambitious targets, but it's not only about commercial viability, it's about how we ensure that we align with the various corporations, how we ensure that we put Africa on the map, and how we ensure that we connect the continent into the greater world.
Cheryl, so talk to us about then, how you're looking at measuring the success of this new endeavor. What's the scale of the business ideally you're looking at on the ground in Beijing for the next 12 months or so? Are you looking to hire people? Where's the office going to be? And talk to us about the journey of just getting this started, as there are some doubts in the world about, is China open for business? Just talk us through the counter narrative there, Cheryl.
Thank you. Yeah. China's very much been open for business in terms of our setup. I have to iterate, though, that when we're here, we're not purporting to be a bank. We're an advisory consulting firm in China, and everything that we do will be about Africa. So the transactions that we commit to are going to be supporting our African businesses. We operate in the continent in over 12 countries, and so the office here is really to build the ties such that we can help Chinese firms, Chinese private sector, Chinese banks navigate the continent. So when we look to execute and provide support on the continent, it's anything from corporate advisory all the way through to retail banking and everything that may be touched in the markets in which we operate. Execution, therefore, is in the markets in which we operate. So any types of trade finance, any types of advisory, lending activities, working capital, to support Chinese businesses that are operating on the continent. That is where we will be executing. That is where we will be transacting with these corporates. And that's how we hope to leverage opportunities not only for ourselves, but of course for Chinese institutions operating on the continent.
I was going to ask, are there risks to doing so? I mean, I'm just wondering in terms of what we've seen in the past, whether it's on infrastructure projects or like, there is this concern of debt trapping of African countries that are left with this debt burden from as a result of Chinese loans. There's been cases of lack of transparency and accountability in some of these Chinese-led projects as well. I mean, how do you navigate around those risks?
Yes, there have been these challenges, and we continue to see challenges across Africa. However, Absa will always look to support and do things in the right way. We would not be reckless in terms of how we do business and any debt structures that we would put across. Yes, there are significant infrastructural challenges across Africa, but by that same token, there's significant opportunity. When you look at the opportunities that exist across the power sector, across renewables, especially under the guise of deepening ESG, there's certainly opportunities. Infrastructural development, it's estimated that there's over $100 billion per annum required in order to close that infrastructure gap. So the opportunity certainly does exist. That being said, of course, naturally, as in with any market, there are natural headwinds that we expect, and it's how we navigate those macroeconomic challenges carefully, how we do it responsibly, working with Chinese institutions, as well as working in our countries with private as well as with public sector.